Welcome back to Echo Ridge in another episode here in our max difficulty achievement run. And we have some problems. You see, what had happened was we sort of ran out of water. As you can see, our main line coming down from our water tanks is pretty much bone dry and only dripping in every once in a while, which leaves our electrolyzers a little thirsty. So how did this happen? Well, this cool salt sus geyser was dormant. This geyser was dormant. It literally just came out of dormancy. And this one is dormant. It's like an eclipse between three planetary bodies. It's not gonna happen but once every blue moon. Well, even more rare than that, I suppose. And I alluded to this towards the end of the last episode that we were sort of having some oxygen problems, and this was the reason why. Now, I do have a little bit of water in here that I've been turning on manually. The problem is, well, it's 54 degrees. I'm not too worried about it for the long term, but it's going to be a really good thing when we can upgrade this saltwater coolant line to super coolant. I also made some changes with our nuclear solvent coolant flow. If you remember, we had the bridge overflow from this line here being ejected to the vacuum of space. And the reason why we had to do that is because this line was only being used to fill up this tank. Well, when this tank is full, this line would end up backing up. And we can't ever let this line back up, because if we did, the steam turbines wouldn't be able to get rid of their exhaust. Now, primarily, it just gets fed right back into the nuclear sauna. But when there's over 20 kilos worth of pressure here, being controlled by this atmos sensor, because remember, if the research reactor is in a condition where there's too much pressure, bad things will also happen. But when there is enough pressure, it'll bypass this shutoff and then continue on this line. So basically, the priorities now are, 1, it stays within the sauna, 2, it goes to our water tank, and then 3, it bypasses this input and then heads down here to be used as new future coolant. And as you can see, it will always have the priority. Remember, part of the reason why we're using the salt water is because it's an easy and efficient way to convert salt water over to clean water. But because I don't want to waste any more water, we're now recycling this coolant at least somewhere in the priority list to be reused. And then finally, the 4th priority in this messy bridge system is it will be dumped off into space. I'm sure I'll update that again in the future, but who knows. So that's sort of where our problem started. And while we are getting a little bit of water, it's really hot for the simple reason, well, it just came out of the nuclear sauna. And the coolant's doing what it can. As you can see, it's coming out at 20 degrees, and it's going back in at around 32. There's just not enough cooling potential inside the 10 kilo blobs of salt water in order to keep 1,000 kilo worth of water tiles cool. So it takes it a little while. But unfortunately, I can't wait for that to happen, so we're just going to turn it back on by saying I don't care how hot it is, just keep pumping water. Some of the water that you see coming down here wasn't coming from that previous pump, but rather from our bathroom overflow system as well. We're also feeding that line with all of the polluted water coming out of our petroleum generator. So I know it looks dicey, but it's not as bad as it looks, almost. So I was wondering why my rockets weren't getting refilled, and I realized my addition of this heavy watt joint plate was stopping the rad bolts. Somebody explained to me why I can pass this diagonal tile, but not this diagonal tile. Is the heavy watt joint plate a little bit bigger? Not a big deal, we'll just move some stuff around. So for science, I added another small tile, and it still ends up blocking those rad bolts. So let me try a door, see if that ends up working. That seems to have done the trick by flipping the heavy watt joint plate and the pneumatic door around. Why are you in there? You're not supposed to be in there, which is the exact reason why we put the door in there. I even turned the permissions off, but it looks like they're still able to get through it by coming up under it, I suppose. But we needed to block off this area because there's just too much radiation without the duplicants being in their lead suits, and this is the shorter route in order to be able to put dirt in these farm tiles. But somehow they're still able to get through. I suppose we don't have to have a door here, so what I'm going to try is lowering the door by 1. The rad bolts should still be able to go through, and now they won't be able to ignore the permissions set on the pneumatic door. Maybe. And yes, that did work out well. When I try to force move a duplicant here, they can no longer get in. With all that fixed, our rad bolt engine is filled. Once again, we can crew it up because we're on a mission to go get some larva eggs. As the standard, we still have 30 basic rad pills and some berry sludge in here. We can take off Angry Suit, change the destination to Idololin, and once again say goodbye to Angry. While you're out, Angry, grab some eggs, please. Thanks. I still have been keeping an eye on this system here. I'm kind of wondering, based on how often this petroleum generator and ethanol distillery are running, how much carbon dioxide we're going to be able to consume using the Slicksters. The temperature down here has gotten pretty nice, so I don't think we quite need the space heater system anymore, so we'll get rid of it. But I also want all the carbon dioxide being created up here to drift down as well. So we're just going to put an airflow tile here and get rid of that little piece of abyssalite. Now, I am not excited about the fact that the rancher is going to have to come down here and try to ranch critters while not being able to breathe, which sort of begs the question, do I start adding more suits? And I've been looking at the problem for a little while and I just don't know where I want to put them. I suppose one thing I can do to make it a little easier is have the transit tube drop them off right next to this place so they're still able to do everything they need to while holding their breath. Not a great system at all, but it's the system we have. I also want to grab one of these Pokeboys for the simple reason that they're going to be able to eat all the polluted dirt from the ethanol station and give us more sand. Let me just find one young enough. That way I know they're still going to lay another egg. And oh my goodness, I think they're all older. We're going to try this poke shell because they're 49 cycles old, so maybe they haven't laid an egg yet. But as a reminder, they can eat 70 kilos worth of polluted dirt per cycle. Well, when their metabolism's full, and they give you half of that back in sand. But because they're wild, they're not going to eat as much, but at least it's getting rid of some of that polluted dirt. Right before I was about to transfer, we actually found a wonderful little poke shell spawn. So this works out even better because we know they're going to end up laying an egg one day. So now we have a wonderful crab that'll always be eating the polluted dirt. Thanks for the sand, little buddy. Over on Idololin, Angry Forest has left the rocket without their suit on. That was not what the plan was. I just happened to miss when they actually landed. We're going to take out one of these wonderful statues. And yes, we're disabling this massage table because you don't need a massage right now. No, you're not running either. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to grab this larva egg and this larva egg. Uh-oh, this one looks like it's about to hatch. That's not great news. So we really need to hurry and grab this thing. So we'll put critter eggs and sweep only and go get them, Angry. With our wonderful larva eggs safely aboard, I think we can go get some other stuff too. Idololin had a lot of goodies, starting with the fact that we can grab all of this iron ore for sure. I mean, might as well grab this igneous rock while we're at it. Sigh, never mind. Angry is trypophobic. They can't do any digging. Oops, maybe should have thought about that one a little bit better. Maybe there's some goodies already laying on the ground that they can pick up, like some granite. I mean, it's not as much, and I don't think we're going to be able to get any of that beautiful iron ore, but at least it's something. Back over in our home colony, we're only 0.3 cycles away until this cool salt slush geyser comes out of dormancy, and boy am I happy for it. It's going to help cool all of this water down, because right now we're not growing any berry sludge, and even our Drecos aren't able to eat, all because that water is entirely too hot for those crops. But at the minimum, we're able to breathe again. Things are looking up. In relatively good news, we've gotten our first mutated seed from the mealwoods, which means we're done doing mealwoods. So now it's time to put down a botanical analyzer. It is considered a science building, so it'd be really nice to be able to get it into our lab. I suppose I can get rid of the storage bin and these mirth leaves, but I still don't think that is enough room because the botanical analyzer is a long boy. So it looks like we're getting rid of the research station as well. It still doesn't fit without getting rid of the lamp too. As soon as we get enough steel, we're going to end up having to put a bunker door system over on Tuxedo. It's just costing us way too much money in repairs. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but the meteors seem to be getting more and more destructive. My theory is that the longer you are playing the game, the bigger the meteors get, but I haven't been able to confirm that quite yet. But I'll put in a full system here that protects everything we have, and then we'll release the debris in some sort of automated fashion. But in order to do that, we need more iron. Oh yeah, that one's gonna sting. Queen Calero is almost finished analyzing the seed. Now notice that this weight plate says they're standing on it, and it's because this is the tile of interest. Even though the animation has them way over here, The dupe is physically located right here. And here's our new mealwood seed, Bountiful. Bountiful has a required radiation of at least 250 rads, but it yields 100% more meal lice and increases the harvest duration by 400%. It also requires light. What will we plant next? Well, by going to look at GMO AOK, we can see that we still need to do bristle blossoms, and I know we have those seeds, but we don't have the hydroponic tiles down quite yet. Oh, this is perfect. We'll put down some grub fruit seeds. Considering the circumstances, Angry Forest did about as well as they could, but I didn't want to keep them there any longer because they were already sitting at about 70% stress. But we got 6 tons of igneous rock, 400 kilos of iron ore, a ton and a half of sandstone, and a little bit of granite. Angry just got home, and we now have our larva egg here on the home planetoid. We're also going to be powering this incubator, at least for a little bit, until I figure out exactly how many Slicksters we need. I also realize it'd probably be a good idea to make sure the Slicksters can't get out of this area, and we're going to change this airflow tile into a mesh tile, and that way all of the extra Slicksters that end up coming out of the incubator will still be able to lay their oil, and the pump that we're about to put down here will be able to gobble it up. Now, I know all of you are probably licking your chops, wondering if we're going to end up putting in a petroleum boiler, and I'm not exactly sure, for a couple of reasons. For one, we're not going to be getting that much oil out of the Slicksters, so a petroleum boiler seems like a lot of work for very little throughput. But for two, it'd kind of be fun to play around with the oil refinery a little bit more too. Yeah, we're going to be losing half the oil that we do get, but again, we don't need a lot of petroleum. Although I'm not looking forward to having to build the whole liquid locks and everything that's going to require for the oil refinery itself because of all that natural gas. Let me see what I can come up with. And no, I still haven't figured out a way to get this transit tube down here. I'm working on it. All right, I've got a plan. It may not be the best plan, but it's a plan. We're going to add a row of suits right here. We're also getting rid of all the transportation methods that duplicants can use to get down to this area. So no matter what, they'll have to bypass the suits to make their way over to here. Incidentally, they'll also need to be in suits to get over here. Now, I'm definitely not looking forward to the piping, but it could be worse, right? I suppose we can take a leg right off of here. Yeah, this doesn't look janky at all. As for our little natural gas room, we're going to end up putting it on top of the petroleum generator and everything here. We're starting to really run out of space here on the colony, and I have no idea what other future projects we have in store. So I'm trying to cram everything into itty-bitty little areas, and it's kind of cool having the entire oil and petroleum production facility in one little area. Once we get this liquid lock in, I'll be able to vacuum out all the gases in here. I'll also put an atmos sensor in here, and since I do want a liquid lock that's going to be able to withstand heat, and it just so happens to be pretty hot in this area, so I think we can accomplish this by use of plastic temperature shift plates. And here's the temperature shift plate, slowly rising in temperature, and all it has to do is get to 159.9 degrees. A little bit further, a little bit further. Beautiful. And now we have a bunch of naphtha we can mop up and use for the liquid locks. And look at this! Our little Slickster was finally born, and we finally, at cycle 1154, have access to crude oil. Winning! We're starting to get a couple of scaldings because this naphtha is so very hot. Ilark, don't go in there. But it's okay because our suit docks are in, and using this oxygen leg worked out very well because that leg is the one responsible for providing oxygen to the right side of the base, which happens to be where the barracks are. It also provides all the oxygen for Envirolin. But it's going to be okay because they're not going to be using these suits a lot, at least for the time being. So once they're full, everybody else can start breathing normally again. And the important thing is, now that they're in suits, I don't feel bad about having to come in here and work. We're going to use a high-pressure gas vent just to be able to empty everything in here, except we're not going to make it out of lead. While I'm sure it'd be okay, it just feels more prudent not to. And then we hook everything up with power. All right, Pandamanda, how did you get in without a suit? How did you do it? Oh, right here. Okay, looks like that route is ending. The next thing we're going to need to put in is a natural gas generator, because we're going to need to do something with all the natural gas this oil refinery is going to emit. And while I thought it might be a great time to go ahead and start using a gas oven, I mean, to be honest, I really don't want to. They made berry sludge just too good. I will grant you that it does take a lot of water, because you're running both bristle blossoms and sleet wheat. but we're getting the same morale bonus as we do with barbecue. I mean, you can't shake a stick at that. I just realized that while I was over here in Eidolon, I could have came and got the artifact at least. I'm pretty sure it's sitting around here somewhere. Maybe I should think a little bit more before I just launch my dupes into space, because there's a lot of things we could have done differently with that previous space mission. Speaking of which, Whiskey is collecting everything out of this forested ore field again, which is going to give us more igneous rock and aluminum ore. And although we did get another artifact, it's just another office mug, which means I really need to start going to other locations. Because while I'm rather fond of our blooming artifact collection, I just don't want to keep getting more and more office mugs. And from what I'm seeing, anytime you go to a place twice, the second time's always going to be said office mug. Oh my. Well, it looks like we're heading back over to Isle Alonin anyways. Somehow, it managed to freeze back down here and it killed our baby Slickster. Where is that bottom chill coming from? And don't tell me it's the Abyssalite. It's the Abyssalite, isn't it? Oh, for the love of Meep. That is really, really unfortunate. Abyssalite's one of those things in the game that I wish the devs would update a little bit. It says it has a thermal conductivity of 0, and the game generally treats it that way. The only difference is when it comes into contact with gases and liquids, and apparently it only does that at a transfer rate of something like 0.000001. And at that transfer rate, and considering it's transferring into carbon dioxide medium, I don't understand how it got so cold so quickly down here. We're not going to be able to send Angry this time, because we're going to need somebody with critter ranching. And I think it'd be easier to give a rancher the piloting skill than it would be giving Angry Forest critter ranching. And it looks like Patrick Gordon might be the perfect dupe for the job. They also have a little bit of hard digging, so we'll just put them into rocket piloting, change the crew from Angry Forest over to Patrick Gordon, wait for our refrigerator to get refilled, and while I can't believe it, for the second time in one episode, we're going back to the same planetoid. Oops. While we're doing that, back to the subject of the natural gas geyser. Since we're not going to be using a gas oven, the next best thing for us to do would be to send it into this natural gas generator. I mean, it's also collecting a bunch of polluted water, and all that polluted water goes all the way back to our bathroom system and gets turned into more oxygen. But once again, the piping is going to be a little bit tricky. Like, I don't even know what to do in this point. Hope you're in the mood for some spaghetti. The only other consideration that we want to do is we don't want this oil refinery sitting in a vacuum. And if we let the gas pump take away all the natural gas, it eventually would, which would give it more cause to overheat. So we're going to put an Atmos sensor in here just to be able to control this gas pump to make sure there's always a little bit of natural gas in here to keep the oil refinery from overheating. And once again, we were running fairly short on raw minerals. I just need all of the stuff. We're down to 41 tons worth of granite and 15 tons worth of igneous rock. And the problem is I can't use any of that igneous rock for the simple reason it's keeping the stone hatches alive. We've been sending a lot of missions out. We've just been so starved for resources this entire playthrough. Of course, at second thought, we do have 260 tons worth of igneous rock on Envirolin, along with 320 tons of sandstone and 174 tons of granite. Please disregard just about everything that I said in the past couple minutes, because we're going to be doing just fine on igneous rock now. Yes, give me all the goodies. The carbon dioxide level here on Envirolin has gotten kinda high. As such, all the duplicates are now sleeping in it. But we're almost done coring everything out, so I'm trying to get every last little bit before we leave. Is this excessive? Yeah, probably a little bit, but let's be honest. How many things in oxygen not included are not excessive? Oh look, it's magically back up to 40 degrees, just that quick. I'm so confused. Patrick Gordon is on their way to Eidolon for the Slickster mission Mark II. Over on Tuxedo, we're finishing up the oil refinery. We've put the automation sensor in, it's set to above 500 grams. We've managed to get the gas line all the way up to the natural gas generator. It'll be doing a 50-50 split with all the natural gas coming out of the fertilizer synthesizer. The next system, the output, or in other words, the petroleum coming out of the oil refinery, is going to be dumped off into this little buffer tank here that has a hydro sensor and a liquid vent. That way we can control, without fail, whether or not this liquid vent is accepting more petroleum or not. So we'll set this on, send a green signal as long as it's below, let's say, 750. Now, granted, it's going to take a little while to fill up to that point, but we'll see. I'm sure modifications to the system will be made because eventually we have to keep using it. Otherwise, this area is going to get more and more filled with crude oil when the oil refinery is not allowed to output anymore. A scalding message tells me that we did make it to Ilonin, so step 1 is going to be grabbing some Slicksters. Now, we don't have plastic here to put them inside the little traps, so we're going to try the old critter drop-off auto wrangle technique. But before I build this, I need to make sure that old Patrick Gordon's inside of a suit. Reason being, there is some zombie spores down here, and I would just prefer they don't come in contact with them. But since they're going to be here, we'll put in a nice low priority dig command and grab all of this iron for sure. Trying to find any other big deposits. Looks like this is a very nice one too. And the access restricted cot bug is back. You can see that the rocket control station is not grounded yet. Patrick can't sleep there. So we have to deconstruct this and then just rebuild it once they're done. Maybe we'll upgrade to the Stargazer cot. Feeling a little fancy. I also need to put a critter drop off in here. So I think we're going to deconstruct the rocket control station, put the critter drop off in, get all the Slicksters we can, and then head back. Now, because we're working down on that bottom biome and it's a little hot, we're going to keep Patrick Jordan in this suit, which it's soon going to run out of oxygen, so everything's going to take a little bit longer. But we're really not asking that much. Just grab the iron. You ever get tempted just to print out some sacrificial dupes? That way they could help out and you wouldn't have to worry about them? I know, me neither. But it'd be really nice to have an extra set of hands that you just don't have to feed. Give me more robots, Clay! On second thought, I'm going to need the critter drop-off when we get home, too. So instead of putting it here, I'm going to put it where this statue is. And then Patrick can sleep with the Slicksters on the way home. We also already got a mutated grub fruit seed. This one's the easygoing. Has the same minimum rads, but has a viable temperature range of plus 50%. It doesn't yield as much, but I suppose being able to plant grub fruit in some hotter environments could be convenient. Over on Envirolin, I am breaking down and putting in a carbon skimmer. We just have too much work here to do, and it's taking longer and longer considering the duplicants aren't even getting a good night's sleep inside their carbon dioxide room. So we're just going to tie it conveniently into the bathroom system and let it go nuts. So Patrick is having an issue getting the Slicksters all the way up there. So I'm going to put another critter drop off here. It's a little bit closer to the rocket. The problem is they go all the way down here holding their breath. Additionally, I think it'd probably just be better to take them out of the suit and deal with some minor scalding. Come on, little Slickster, you can do it, buddy. Yes, hold your breath. Good job, Patrick. Winning! Twice in one episode, just absolutely crushing it. Okay, because of course they did. When Patrick got done wrangling them, apparently they teleported themselves into this tile here, which means I need to give Patrick super hard digging. Shouldn't be too bad, it's only another couple morale points, but still a great annoyance. Next up on the radiation front, we're going to plant some bristle blossoms, and since I'm lazy and don't want to put hydroponic tiles down, we're just going to have the duplicants manually deliver water. We put some window tiles in so they get all the sunlight they need. So here very shortly, this will be 3 plants completed. Patrick is grabbing the last Slickster on the planetoid. We only have a little bit more of the iron to sweep up, and it's getting real close. They're at 71% stress, and I'd rather not push that limit, but I really want this iron. With all 3 Slicksters snug as a bug inside the rocket, and yes, this rocket is a little bit warm since we've been using it for so long, sitting at around 47 degrees, so the Slicksters should be safe. We can now put our wonderful rocket control station back and head home. Nice job, Patrick. Keep up the good work. And now that we're home, we can do the exact same thing. Auto wrangle surplus, 0 critters, and the duplicants will come truss up these Slicksters, and while they're at it, we can grab all this beautiful iron ore. So if you may remember from many episodes ago, I was wondering how the window tiles out of diamond would do, and as you can see, they've been hit plenty by meteors, and not a single crack. Likewise up here, a meteor smashed dead center and didn't do anything. So I'm starting to think that we might be able to provide some protection using diamond window tiles. Granted, you wouldn't want to put it in any place that needs to actually access that space because you can't control it via automation like the interplanetary launcher needs to somehow get through, but a lot of this we could just cover up with diamond window tiles. All 3 Slicksters are now tucked in. Unfortunately, this one's already 85 cycles old, so I don't think we're going to be able to groom them in time for them to lay another egg. But this one here is 24, so we'll get a lot of eggs out of it. Wait a minute, where's the third Slickster? There's the little fella. Except this time we'll do it the easy way with the plastic critter trap. We also already have a mutated blossom seed. This one's the blooming mutation, which gives it a plus 20 to decor. Looks like we're done with bristle blossoms too. And now all 3 Slicksters are here. That about wraps it up, considering I'm supposed to be going live in about 45 minutes. I recorded this episode on one of our stream days because I'm going to be out of town for about 4 days next week, so I'm not going to be able to record or edit any videos. So you're probably not going to be getting 2 videos, but I'm hoping by me jumping a little bit ahead, you'll at least have one to watch during that week. If you're still enjoying the series, make sure you hit like so YouTube continues to advertise it to other auction not included players. I had a great time. I hope you did too. Much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.